Hello and welcome. My name is Diane Barada-Conjot, a 1984 alumna from the WashU School of Arts and Science. I currently work as a writer and a career and transition coach with clients from all over the world. I met Elma, today's featured guest, 10 years ago in New York City at a coach training program. We became fast friends and eventual collaborators. And it is such a meaningful coincidence that we both attended WashU. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. On behalf of the WashU Alumni Association, I am excited to welcome you to Hamlet's Mirror, a book talk about reaching your performance potential on stage and off, with Elma Linz Kanefield, LCSW, the School of Social Work, 1976. Before we begin, I'd like to explain the format for today's session. You are welcome to share your video if you prefer and unmute during the Q&A session only. The featured discussion will be featured on your screen and last around 25 to 30 minutes, followed by a Q&A segment. We encourage you to participate by asking questions at any time using the chat function. Please make sure your questions are sent to just the WashU Alumni Association. There's a pull down when using the chat box which allows you to do this. During the Q&A, we will get to as many questions as we can. The event is being recorded and will be posted on the Alumni Association YouTube channel following the event. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome the moderator for this afternoon, Nicole Ambos-Freber, and the featured speaker, Elma Linz Kanefield. Nicole Ambos-Freber joined the Opera Theater of St. Louis in 1999 and has served as Managing Director of Advancement since 2019. She and her outstanding team work in partnership with Opera Theater's Board of Directors to secure revenue to sustain the company's mission. Nicole also leads the company's community partnership work and was instrumental in launching Opera Theater's New Works Collective initiative in 2022. Nicole served as co-chair of the National Steering Committee of Opera America's Women's Opera Network from 2019 to 2023, an organization committed to advancing gender parity for the field of opera. She taught fundraising as an adjunct faculty member for Webster University's Master of Fine Arts in Arts Management and Leadership. Nicole holds a Bachelor of Music in Music Engineering Technology with a minor in Electrical Engineering from the University of Miami, and has held previous development positions at the University of Missouri St. Louis and COCA. Welcome, Nicole, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Elma.
Diane.
Thank you. Elma is a 1976 master's alumna from the WashU School of Social Work. She is a specialist in the psychology of the performing artist. For over 35 years, Elma has worked with dancers, actors, musicians, and vocal artists as a psychotherapist and life coach, and as one of the only private practices in the country exclusively dedicated to them. In 1986, she founded the Juilliard School's counseling service. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, she presented performance potential masterclasses for performing artists all over the U.S. She continues to practice full-time and currently offers pro bono groups that she began in 2020 for artists in the time of COVID. Her work brings her irrepressible joy. Elma, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Diane. First of all, I want to thank Washington University for hosting us, and especially Jen for putting this hour together. And I want to thank Nicole, who I consider the bones and blood of Opera Theater of St. Louis, and after today, you'll see why. And Diane, thank you. Without you, there would be no Hamlet's Mirror. Then I want to thank all of you who are listening and watching, because you're giving up your hour to understand artists better and to get a knowledge of this book that I've written for and about artists, because I honestly believe that it is our artists, after all, who hold the mirror up to life. So with that, I'm going to tell you that Hamlet's Mirror is very interactive. So I will ask you to join me in a very interactive hour. So welcome all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elma. And I want to add my thanks also to you, of course, to Diane, to Jenna, and Washington University. It is an honor to be sharing a screen with you today. You have had such a positive impact on the performing arts field and on artists across the country. And I know that we are all excited to learn from you today, Elma. So thank you. For those of you who haven't had a chance to work with Elma directly, we're thrilled that she now has this wonderful book, Hamlet's Mirror, to share some of her practices more broadly. And for those of you who may not yet have read the book, I hope you fix that very shortly by reading the book. But as we get started today, Elma, could you tell us a little bit about how you describe performance potential? How do you think about this concept of performance potential?
Performance potential, Nicole, is what Hamlet's Mirror is about. And before it's a concept that I created and developed. So before I tell you what I think it's about, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read from the very first page of Hamlet's Mirror what some artists described as performance potential in one of my performance potential master classes. Okay.
Great.
I asked a singer what performance potential meant to him, and he said, "That's a very personal question." He replied, "Indeed it is." But when a different singer was asked the same question, she responded with great emotion, "It's that possibility that I have inside." In all my offices, before I went to Zoom during COVID, I had a stage in my office. And on that stage was a ballet bar and a piano and a big mirror. And the dancer went to the bar and extended her leg. And with the grace of her entire body, she told me that her performance potential was her grace, her reach. A young actor said, "It's what my parents said I'm not living up to." Responses to my question run the gamut from "it's that special greatness I have inside" to "you're asking me something I've never dared to say out loud." A musician defined performance potential as doing. And now, audience, it's your turn. Performance potential. What chord does that strike within you? I want you to close your eyes for a moment, if you will. What does performance potential, a word that you may just have heard, mean to you? And would you take a moment and write what it means to you in the chat?
Wonderful. That's exactly the kind of interaction we hope to have today. So we welcome those comments about what performance potential means to all of you. And just Elma, sounds like this is something very individual, very personal.
It is, because it means something different to every artist and to everybody.
I know we will see those comments start to come back to us. We're starting to see now someone writes, "Not listening to that I'm not good enough" voice in my head. No matter how many performances I've had, I feel anxious. Everything you're capable of, a lot of pressure. I'm sure these answers resonate with you, Elma, having heard probably some of these same comments.
Yeah, they're coming in. Can you read some more?
Sure. What I hope to be able to share with others,
Oh,
being able to communicate with expression, this coming from a dancer,
okay.
doing my absolute best and discovering there's more than I thought.
Wow. Okay, one more.
This is wonderful, finding and wholly sharing truth, joy, and helping the audience find theirs.
Okay, thank you so much. I wish I could read them all.
And we will go back and read them all in the transcript later, I'm sure, just to
Yeah.
be inspired by. So
The meaning, oh, Nicole.
I was just going to say, Elma, you mentioned the bar in your office, and I know in the book you talked about.
Yeah, can I read the meaning that is in the Hamlet's mirror that I give to performance potential?
Yes, yes, please do.
Okay. The meaning that I give to performance potential is doing the best that you can do based what you know in the moment of performance, in the moment of doing. In other words, the first time you perform something or do something, which will be very different than the second, third, fourth, etc. time, based on what you've learned and what you know. So performance potential is dynamic.
Which makes sense because performance is so dynamic, right? Every performance is different.
That's right.
Talk to me about your office and how you interact with the people you work with. You mentioned a bar, of course, your ballet bar. You mentioned a stage. So it sounds like visiting you and working with you is a very different experience than working with another psychotherapist. So talk to me about how you interact with the people you work with.
You mean the stage in my office? Well, I have to reminisce for a minute, okay? I was trained in St. Louis. Very good training, but very classical training. Never to, it was kept in the therapy room. Never to relate to anyone I worked with outside the therapy room. I was very compliant. So when I went to Juilliard, the students would ask me, Elma, please attend my performances, because Juilliard is a performance-oriented institution. And I would say, thank you very much, but no. But I would see these students in the elevator. We would be squished together. Some of these kids would be very big. And so I was really very close to them. And then I would see them in the halls. Hi, Elma. And if they would make eye contact, I would say, hello. In a very subdued way. And soon this got to be so silly to me. So I decided I would go to their performances. But I told them when it was convenient for my life, and I told them that anything I saw on stage that I thought would be useful therapeutically would be grist for the mill. They said, great. And lo and behold, what I saw there in their performances was exactly what they were talking about in therapy, be it anxiety, depression, connection, civility, anything that was the issue in therapy, there it was on the stage. So I decided, okay, this is very interesting and very helpful. So I built a little stage in my office and plunked a piano on it, and a piano bar and a big mirror and anything else I could think of. And they brought their instruments in, and if a dancer couldn't articulate what he was feeling or talking about, he'd dance it out and get off the couch and come on the stage. And to this day, even with Zoom, they do that. Not on stage, but in the space that they're talking to me from. And it just works.
It sounds like it's such a, it seems so obvious in working with artists, and yet I suspect there are very, very few individuals working in that way across the country. So bravo to you for putting artists in the environment in which the highest sort of anxiety level is present, right? So they can work through
it. And they enjoy it. And I get the pleasure.
You get a little extra performance in your life, right?
I can hardly stand.
I want to talk about mistakes, because I think you write so brilliantly about making mistakes and correction in your book. I think so much of our artistic training, for those of us who came up as musicians or dancers or actors, so much of training is focused on correcting mistakes, right? Identifying the mistake, correcting the mistake. You're always sort of trying to get technically better. And you write about mistakes as being opportunities for learning, opportunities to learn something new. So how do you help artists make that shift from this is a problem I need to fix to this is an opportunity to learn something new?
Okay. Audience, are you ready for another participatory experience? Pause. What is a mistake? Something that doesn't work. I mean, really, that's all a mistake is. And when something doesn't work, as we're all up against this, all of us, what do? We do something else, right? I mean, here again, how silly to beat ourselves up. It's an opportunity to learn, to do something else. But to do something else, we have to think differently about it. Okay? And here comes one of my favorite parts of the book. This is really, because it's something I live by. And it's a mantra. And I do this mantra almost every day. But to do it, I stand up and I dance. Now, I can't stand up with you. I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. Would you please stand up? You might feel a little silly, but please stand up. I'd stand up, except all you see is my torso.
Zoom doesn't work so well for the standing. Yeah.
So everybody stand up, if you will, and I'm going to teach you my mantra. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Stand up. Okay, it goes. When you change what you're thinking, you will change what you're doing. Say it with me, please. When you change what you're thinking, you will change what you're doing. When you change what you're thinking, you will change what you're doing. Okay? And in the book, I go into this in great detail. Yeah? There are 4 ways to change your thinking. Most of us, as default, we think in endings, we think in results. We think about how we want things to end. doesn't work. How can we, we're not tea leaf readers. When we stay in the moment, just this moment, that's how we do things differently. So that's one way to change our thinking. The other way, there are 4 ways. Another way is to not take things personally. It's really not about us. A hard knock, but it's not. People say terrible things. People say thoughtless things. People can even say nice things. When we trust ourselves and believe that in what we're doing, go about our business. Let people have their own thoughts. We have ours. Another way is to think possibility thoughts. How many of us think, I can't, I shouldn't, don't? I'll hear people say, no problem, no problem. We're reared on that. Who said there was a problem? Possibility. I mean, we're creative souls. I don't care what we do. And the 4th thing is thinking non-judgmentally. First of all, who are we to judge anything? We can have opinions about things, but judgment is toxic. It's hurtful. It's intentionally hurtful. And when we're not judgmental, somehow we're filled with gratitude. And gratitude is another way of thinking. And it's an opportunity to do something different. So a mistake is really an opportunity to learn.
Love that. Love that. And I love when you change what you're thinking, you change what you're doing. I'm not dancing, but okay, we'll dance later when we're allowed to stand up, not on Zoom. I think that's such an important lesson though. And I think that's a hard lesson for most of us to learn because you have years and years of that sort of self-critical thinking of, I did it wrong. That was wrong, trying to change. Yeah. And instead of just accepting with gratitude, today I sound like this, tomorrow I sound like that, just that acceptance. So in the book, Elma, you talk about 4 types of performers, and the potential realized performer is sort of the ultimate thing that I think we all want to be, a potential realized performer, someone who's fully in the moment, performing in the best way they can at that moment in time. But I think many of us are more likely to identify with what you call the promising performer. So you're sort of almost there, you're moving in the right direction. But I thought it was so interesting. One of the things you dig into with this type of performer, the promising performer, is that they're often putting others before themselves, because that's sort of easier to say, like, I'm going to lift up this colleague instead of stepping forward myself. So how, for people who are in this stage, this promising performer stage, how do you help them unstick themselves and sort of move to that next level?
Well, promising performer, because they put others first, because they sacrifice, lead pretty good lives. They work. They have families. But they know something's missing. And what's really missing, I'm really shorthand, trying to make this very short, is an ability to take. They don't take care of themselves. I really developed the promising performers when watching performers take bows.
Interesting.
It was excruciating.
In what way?
Well, just if you're a singer, you're on stage usually, and it's painful because they can't take in the appreciation and the love that's coming forth from the audience. It's not yet in their DNA. They're so used to giving and getting their strokes from, oh, thank you for doing my dishes or giving me your studio time or whatever they've done for another, to be appreciated for what they, for singing an aria beautifully. And then I began to think, this is true for everybody. People who volunteer, oh, I'll do that for you, without being asked. That's a key ingredient. You can always spot a promising performer. Oh, I'll do this. Well, I don't know if I want to, but okay. It's in a poker game, there's supposedly a tell. Is anybody out there a poker player? I'm not, but there's supposedly a tell. It's a tell. So promising performers rationalize a lot, and they're very altruistic, except when they're not needed anymore. And then they wonder, well, where have all my peeps gone? But because they have nothing to sacrifice to. It's a very kind of complicated life. And you have to be around needy people to be a promising performer. So you're constantly looking. But promising performers can really improve their lives when they take care of themselves and learn to say no.
That seems like a lesson that can apply in so many ways across so many fields. Elma, you write about performers being different than those of us who do not perform on the formal stage. So will you speak a little bit to that? What differences do you see?
Well, there's one main difference, and I'm so sorry, Nicole. I didn't ask you to ask this question of the Jardine young artists. How many of them knew they wanted to be performers at 6 or 7? Darn. Okay.
We can still do that. Maybe not today, but
I really want you to ask them. Okay. Audience, will you go to the chat and put how many of you knew that you wanted to do what you're doing? You may be a dentist, you may be whatever, your teacher, whatever, a mother, whatever you're doing when you were 7. and put yes or no in the chat, will you? I'm watching the chat.
Getting a lot of yeses. Third grade, so someone knew I wanted to be a therapist at 15.
Hi, Anne.
And some no's too.
Yeah,
Elma.
yeah. No. I see more no's than yeses. What about you? No.
Yeah, we are getting a lot of no's. I think some of us are still trying to figure this out.
It's fun to see people I know.
So I think the response is mixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't tell. Can you tell?
I'm seeing sort of half and half. So some people, yes, knew very early on what they wanted to do, and others maybe not so much.
Okay. I should have known. Okay. I'd love to know why you should have, but we don't have time right now. Anyway, I'm going to hazard an educated guess because I haven't done a worldwide survey. Most performers, wouldn't you say, Nicole, knew at 6, 7 that they wanted to be performing artists?
I think, yeah, even if they maybe couldn't articulate it in quite that way, knew that the arts did something for them that other things did not.
And began taking lessons, practicing, involving their families, driving them. It's a different lifestyle.
It is, yeah, a lot of sacrifice for the artist and the family, as she said.
I mean, a different life, a different childhood.
Mhm.
Often, I'm using the word often, skews psychosocial development. Now, in the book I call it, I always knew. And there are reasons for this knowing. I don't think we have time to go into the reasons, but I just find the reasons so interesting. Some are personality stabilizing, and some are just disruptive. It can be for the whole life.
So that requires very specialized interaction with someone like you who understands what that childhood experience means.
Oh my God. And the family, I mean, the family has to let another prominent caretaker and teacher, the ballet master or mistress, the voice teacher, which shouldn't come till later actually, but it's getting earlier and earlier, don't you think?
It's true. Yeah, we would advise later, but yes, some parents are jumping in very early with voice lessons. But yeah, I thought it was so interesting in the book how you talk about the teacher becomes that sort of third parent that you're seeking approval from, that becomes such an important figure, sometimes more important for some folks than a parent can be in that relationship. So that is a unique experience. Okay, in just a second, we're going to go to some audience questions, but I have one more question for you, Elma, and that is, reading this book, I know it's written for performing artists. For me, there were so many things that seemed applicable to non-performing artists, us normal folk who maybe work in the arts or even don't work in the arts. And I'm curious if you had that in mind as you were writing, or if you were surprised by how this resonates with non-artists or those who aren't practicing.
I was actually surprised because I wrote this to and for performing artists. And then people came up to me and said, Elma, this is about me, people who weren't artists.
Mhm.
And that's how I came to the title, Hamlet's Mirror, because performance potential, I realize, fits everyone, including myself. And Hamlet's musing. I do believe that everyone can learn from these artists in Hamlet's Mirror. And I'm going to repeat Hamlet's musing. Again, it is our artists who hold the mirror up to life and reflect us all.
It's a good reminder that that quote is such a great reminder of the importance of the arts and of artists and the people who sacrifice their lives to make art for all of the rest of us to enjoy.
Well, I hope it's not a sacrifice for them. I hope
That's true. That it's something that brings joy and fulfillment. Okay, we would love to have questions from the audience. So please submit those through the chat as our helpers at WashU have indicated. I'm going to kick us off, Elma, just to ask what inspired you? You have years of a successful practice doing this work. What inspired you to write this book?
the people I work with. I can't keep what I've learned inside. There's very little research on performing artists. Their life, their culture, who they are, what they know.
That's true.
That's a
very
great question. Nobody's ever asked me.
Why a book? I'm curious too. In your practice,
I really, when I was in high school here, couldn't spell. So I really think I could write. And Diane, of course, coached me through it. And I'm beginning to have much more confidence in myself about it.
when you change what you're thinking.
Yes.
You change what you're doing.
Yes.
As you, in your own practice, because there is so little research in this field, I'm curious if there are books that inspired you or helped guide your thinking about working with artists. Are there books you would recommend on this topic or related topics to our audience?
The Artist's Way in Creativity is just great. I think performance potential is greater than creativity. It encompasses creativity. If that's something that is an aspiration. The Artist's Way is absolutely excellent. I've done the Artist's Way a couple of times. Have you ever done the Artist's Way?
It's been years and years ago, but it's a good book to revisit at different stages of your life, right? Because you bring such different thinking to it. Yeah, that's a great one. Great one to keep on the list to return to and revisit.
I hear what the audience thinks.
Yes, we welcome other book recommendations from the audience as well. For students who might be joining us today, are there lessons from the book that you hope they will take away and apply immediately to their work?
Yes, the mistakes.
The mistakes, how to think about mistakes.
Yeah.
Sense. I think that's, again, not just for students, but for all of us. We have a question about tips on cultivating skills to move on during a performance when you lose your focus or when you have moments of anxiety. And again, I think this is a lesson not just for artists, but for all of us when you're in the moment and you know something is going wrong. How do you recover from that in the moment?
Well, a lot of people call that stage fright, and I'm just going to talk about one way. I'm not going to talk about stage fright is a topic unto itself. But one way you ground yourself with your senses. You, what do I smell? What do I touch? What do I see? You almost I don't want to say leave the performance, but you're having a little regression, and you've got to stabilize yourself, but let your senses work for you. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And I haven't heard that before as a way to sort of regroup and refocus in the moment.
Another way is kind of turn yourself from the audience and smile. That does something to your brain. I'm not so sure what it does, but it does.
That's really helpful. And I think too, what you were mentioning before about replacing judgment with gratitude, just that if you can in the moment sort of get to that moment of gratitude to be there.
Good. I love that.
Well, that's your teaching, but I think in public speaking, at least that's always how I'm thinking, like focus on the gratitude, not focus on the judgment of what you're doing wrong in the moment.
See, I learn things all the time, and it's so wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm throwing your words back at you. We have a question from Dan. What is your advice on post-audition sabotage when you get in your head about your talent or performance potential? It's a great question. So you've left the audition and now you're sort of rethinking everything that happened.
So you're at the audition. Is that the question?
He asks, what is your advice on post-audition sabotage when you get in your head about your talent or performance potential? So you've left the audition and you start to think, oh, that was terrible. I'm never going to get it.
It's really judgment. You're into judgment.
Yes.
I would ask myself, well, how is this serving me?
Yeah, that's a great point.
On the audition, you're thinking outcome. Outcome thinkers dwell on the past mistakes, or future. Am I going to go up on that line or something like that? First of all, how does that serve you?
I think that makes sense. I mean, once the audition's done, it's done, right? You can't redo it. So
right. This is, I wonder if you're somebody who, let's say you didn't like the audition and you want to beat yourself up. So let's call it a mistake. What is a mistake?
how do you learn, right? How do you move forward?
It's an opportunity. It's something that doesn't work. So get creative about auditions. Do you want to go to the next audition as a clown? I mean, have fun with your thoughts.
Yeah.
You're using your thoughts to beat yourself up. You can do that. You can choose to do that. In Hamlet's Mirror, I talk about choices, 5 choices. There are 5 choices to every situation. I don't care what the situation is. You can choose to remain a victim, which you're doing to yourself. You can choose to accept the situation. You can choose to leave the situation. You can choose to change the situation, or you can choose to change yourself and be the change you want in this world. 5 choices. Of course, I go into more depth than I just did, but there are 5 choices. And I hope you read the choices, because I have a hunch they might be of value to you.
And I love that because it puts the power back in your hands, right? It's your
All
choice.
of them, even to remain a
Yeah.
victim, because you're
It's your choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ashley writes, how do you recover from comparing yourself to others?
How do you recover? That assumes that you're going to continue comparing.
So we need to stop that behavior? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it sounds like you compare. How do I recover? You compare how. I don't think you do. The question is, what causes you to compare? What value do you get in it?
Well, and isn't that one of the things that's so that we love about the arts, is that every individual brings such a different
Absolutely.
skill set, different interpretation, different technique, different interpretation every day.
Real question is, what causes you not to trust yourself? And how do you work on self-trust in expanding your performance potential? But listen to how that question was phrased.
So just the asking of the question is telling. Okay, we have a few minutes left if anyone has additional questions. While we wait to see that in the chat, Elma, I want to ask, what role do the arts play in your life? How often do you attend, what are you attending performances regularly? What do the arts bring to your life personally? I know you attend opera, but I suspect you attend many things.
Well, I love the St. Louis Symphony. And when I lived in New York, which I intend to do again, here's another question. The arts feed my soul. I don't know another, that might sound really corny, but I don't know how else to answer that. I don't know who I'd be without the arts in my life.
I think that's a wonderful answer. Okay, our other questions that we have here. What are 2 things you hope everyone, regardless of being in the performing arts, takes away from this discussion? 2 things that you hope people take away today.
2 things. That you enjoyed the hour, that you stayed in the moment and learned something and had pleasure being here, and that you learn more about the performing artist.
Wonderful. And another question we have from the chat. a couple of more questions we have in the chat. What inspires you now, Elma? Where do you draw inspiration today?
What inspires, I'm sorry,
What inspires you?
my work? I'm inspired every day of my life. Performances, presentations like this, talking about my book with people inspires me. It seems to be very meaningful for people and emotional. That's really inspirational to me. I mean, I can hope, but it seems to be that's really inspirational.
It definitely is touching people. I know that. A couple of more questions we have here that we're going to get in. I think we have time. Question: what was your favorite part of the book to write?
My favorite part. I have a part called the Diva Syndrome. And the Diva Syndrome is about what prevents performers from reaching their performance potential. And I fell in love with that name. For a while, that was the name of the book, except it was so negative. I lectured on it on a ship, 2 ships actually, and people fell asleep. So yes, I did. So I think that's not going to go. And it was like pulling teeth to get me to give up that title. But that was really fun to write. And The Promising Performer was really fun to write because most of my artists are promising performers. And it was, I really wanted to articulate it. But if I were to write the book again, it would be totally different. I've learned so much. It's been 5 months, I think. I've learned so much, Nicole. It's just amazing.
So that will be in the next book, I hope. Okay, we have one last question and then we will wrap up. So our last question, how do you hope current students can take the lessons from this book and start to change the future of the arts? What do you hope the next generation takes away and how they start to think differently about the arts?
I want them to trust themselves. Students of the performing arts have to break down a lot. They have to go through very regressive stages to learn their art. And it's very hard to trust yourself during regressions. And as you said, well, you didn't say, but many teachers harp on, quote, mistakes rather than opportunities. And I want performing arts students to know that it's their expression, their uniqueness that makes them artists. Yes, they have to learn techniques. Yes, they have to be prepared. All of that. But it's you and who you are that makes you an artist. And your technique will unfold into that. But trust yourself.
That is such good guidance, I think, to leave us with today, to trust yourself trust that you know yourself well and can be your best advocate. Wonderful words. Elma, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for writing this wonderful book, and thank you for the joy that you bring to this work of helping artists achieve their full potential. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. And I will let you say your thanks as well, and then we'll turn things back to Diane.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, audience. I really appreciate you being here and your participation. And thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Elma. Thank you, Nicole. And thank you to everyone for asking questions and participating. We look forward to seeing all of you again for future programs and encourage you to check out Hamlet's Mirror, Reaching Your Performance Potential on Stage and Off. It is available in the link provided in the chat box, as well as in the WashU bookstore. Stay tuned for upcoming events sponsored by the WashU Alumni Association. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.